Hello, students. Today we're going to be talking about something called file management. Our goal is to understand the purpose of file management and to create a file management structure. Let's take a look at this image. What do you notice about this image? Right, it looks messy and organized. It may be hard for us to find our files and folders that we need. So what can we do to fix this problem? If you said organize our files and folders, you are correct. That is called file management. So this is just organizing our folders into a structure that makes it easy for us to store and retrieve our information. So for example, as a teacher, I have different duties and I have created a teacher folder. So a folder allows me to store our information on a specific location within a drive. Within a folder, I can also have what's called a subfolder. So a folder within a folder. So for example, I have my teacher folder here. Inside of my teacher folder, I have folders for my different duties. So like FBLA or survey of business. So anytime that I need to do something with FBLA, I can just find that folder and then I can save and then locate my files there. Speaking of files, what are some different types of files that exist? So think about what you save on your computer or your phone. Right, so maybe you said there are document files or image files, video files, spreadsheet files, presentation files. There's a ton of different types of files. You can tell me what type of file you've created based on the icon at the beginning of the name. So for example, if I look at this one right here, this tells me that this file was created in, you got it, Microsoft Word. Where was this file created? This one right here. That's right, PowerPoint. So those icons can tell us where files were created. And then also at the end of a name, it'll tell us the file extension or what type of file it is and then where the file was created to. But we'll talk about that later. So when it comes to accessing our files, how do we get there? You can get to your files by going to the File Explorer. So the File Explorer can be located on your taskbar here. And then you can also type in and search for File Explorer here. So I'll show you an example of what that looks like. So if I open my File Explorer, I can see that I have folders and files that I access often. And then you'll have something called this PC. This is going to be very important because we're going to use this later on whenever we started with our certification prep. So this PC shows us our folders that are for our operating system and then also our drives, long-term storage, and then also for our networks. So if I click on this PC, I'll see right now that I have Windows C drive, and then I can also get to my pictures, my downloads, my desktops, etc. So notice I just clicked on that arrow. Right now it's collapsed, but if I click on that arrow, it goes down, and then I can see everything that's going to be located underneath this PC. So on this PC, like I said, you have your hard disk drives or your drives. And so this is going to be our long-term storage. You have your operating system folder, so my documents, pictures, and downloads. And then if you're at school, you will also have something that's called a network drive. So if you look under this PC, you may have something that's called a U drive. That is your personal drive. But it only works at school. Do you know why? Right, because it's networked for the school. So if you are working on a file that's really important and you save it to your U drive, if you log onto a different computer at school, guess what? You go to that U drive, that file is still there. So it's on the network. The file is on the network. Now, here's a tip for you. Let's say that you are working on a super important file and you save it to your desktop. That's just on that particular computer, just that computer. What if that computer crashes? What happens to that really important file? It's gone because you may have to get a new computer. They may have to completely erase it. So it'll be important for you to utilize things like your network drive and then other types of storage so that you can access your files. Those really important files. So maybe you can save it to your U drive, or you can also save files to your flash drive, which is going to be portable storage devices that can hold your information. So this thing right here is a flash drive. And then you can also save things to the clouds. So I like to save my files in more than one location. So when I say save things to the clouds, That just means online storage. So, for example, Google Drive. What's another example? Right? So you might see iCloud on your phones, or you may see Dropbox. So as long as you have the internet, you can access those files. So when you're working on files, I suggest saving really important files, suggest saving to more than one location. So once you have accessed your File Explorer, you may decide that you want to create folders on your U drive, or you may want to create folders in other locations. Whenever you create your folders, you want to come up with a structure that makes it easy for you to understand and easy for you to access your folders. So, for example, in the Survey Business class, if I'm going to be studying Access, PowerPoint, Excel, and Word, I may want to have all of those subfolders within my Survey Business folder. Okay? So, if you notice on this bar at the top, this tells me that I'm at this PC on my desktop, and these folders are saved in my Survey Business folder. So this is my file management structure right here. So it tells me if I were to click inside of Word, then any files relating to Word would be located here. So it makes it easier for whenever you're working on assignments and then you have to go back to files, you'll know that they'll be in the right location. So there's no, Miss Lewis, where is that file at? You should automatically know because you organized your files using a file management structure. Here's another example. Here's another visual for you. So let's say I have my school folder. Within that school folder, you have your different subjects, so like science and math. Within your science folder, you might have your projects. Then you have different files for your project. So this is an example of a file management structure. Okay, so let's say that you have worked on several files. Let's say you've got all your files organized, you worked on several files, and now you're ready to send your files to a coworker or maybe somebody that you're collaborating with. What's an efficient way to do this via email, by email? It would take forever to upload or attach each image one at a time. So what we can do is we can add all of those files into a folder. You can add all those files into a folder and then do something called compressing. What does it mean to compress? Right, it means to basically package it tight together, also known as zipping for our computers, and it takes up less storage and it makes it easier to send. So we can compress our files, or compress our folders by adding files in to a folder. So let's say I have my Survey Business folder. Then I can right click on a folder to send to and then do compress folder. And so that makes it easier for me to just upload one folder instead of uploading all 50 files online. So the keywords here is going to be compressed, it's going to take up less storage, and it's going to be easier to send. So let's say that somebody sends me a compressed file. I need to be able to edit those files, move those files and folders around as needed. So in order to do that, after I've downloaded this file, I will need to extract or take out or unzip the files. So then I would right click on the zipped folder and then I would choose extract all and then I would be able to access my files. So once I'm able to access my files, I'll be able to determine what these files are for, what software was we used to create these files, etc. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that I can tell what type of file it is and then also perhaps what type of software was used to create the file by looking at what's called the file extension. And that's going to be the name or the letters at the end of a file name. So for example, if I see .docx, like here at the end of a file name, that lets me know that this file was created in Microsoft Word, for example. Okay, what about .pptx? What software was that created in? Right, PowerPoint. So why is it important for me to understand file types? Yes, so I can know what software was used to create the files. I can also know if I have the right software to view the files and edit the files as well. I'll give you a quick story. So there was a teacher that emailed me one day. It was like, Miss Lewis, can you help me open this file? I was like, sure, I can come up during lunch. So as soon as I got upstairs, he said, here's the file right here. And I noticed it said .psd at the end. Does anybody know what .psd means? Well, I do. it means a Photoshop file. So my first thought is, well, do you have Photoshop on this computer? And his answer was, of course, no. So because I knew that file extension, I knew it was a Photoshop file, I knew that you had to have that software on the computer. So he could have saved himself a lot of time by maybe asking me earlier, but also knowing that file extension told him that you have to have this particular software in order to access the files. So sometimes it's just helpful for us to know whether we have the right software in order to view the files. So here are some common file types and extensions. So you might be most familiar with like music file types, so .mp3 or .wav or WAV file. For photos, you might be able to recognize .jpeg, .png. For videos, you may be familiar with .mov or .wmv, and it really just depends on what type of device it was used to create or download the file. And then text files might be .docx or .doc as well. So now we talked about file management, basically being able to organize our files. We looked at where we can access our files in the File Explorer. We also looked at how we could perhaps move files around. Did we look at that? If not, I'm going to show you an example really quick. So let's say I wanted to move files. You can, of course, click and drag. So you can click and drag to move files. And then if you need to look at files, you can double click and open the folder. You can right click, you can cut files, which means to remove it, place it somewhere else. You can also copy files, which means to duplicate it and place it somewhere else. So let's say I didn't want this particular file here. I could cut, go back to a different folder, right click, and paste it in. So I can move folders by drag and drop, cut and paste, copy, paste, etc. Okay, we also talked about how we can create a file management structure so that it'll be easier for us to locate our files. And then we talked about file extensions or file types so that we can know what type of files we're working with, then also what type of software we may have to use in order to view those files. So now we are going to walk through a couple of activities. I'm going to have you create some files. I'm going to have you create a folder for Survey of Business, and then I'll have you practice downloading a zipped folder and then extracting the contents, and then I'm going to have you do the file extension activity on Google Classroom. So hopefully this has been helpful for you to understand file management, and now we're going to get to some